Now this lesson is a combination of sections 2.2 and 2.3, and we're going to be working with the addition and subtraction of real numbers. So when we finish, I expect you to be able to add real numbers. I expect you to be able to subtract real numbers. I also want you to be able to be familiar with the rules of addition and subtraction. And you also need to know the properties and the terminology. So let's get started. Now first we're going to go over the rules of addition and subtraction. If the sign is the same, you're going to add and keep the sign. If the signs are different, I'm going to subtract the small number from the large number and keep the sign of the large. We'll go over a few examples in a moment. And sometimes we're also going to have minus and negative. And I kind of think of this as two wrongs don't make a right, but two negatives make a positive. So when I have 5 minus negative 3, I have two negatives. So two wrongs don't make a right, but two negatives side by side like that make a positive. So I really have 5 plus 3, and 5 plus 3 is 8. Now let's look at a couple of examples. I have a positive 57, a negative 14. Signs are different, so I'm going to subtract the small number from the large number. So what I really have here is 57 minus 14, which if I took these parentheses out and I just wrote it as 57 minus 14, looks very familiar. So we would end up with 43. Now I have 89 plus negative 3. Okay, signs are different. The small number from the large number. 89 minus 3 is what? 86. Once again, negative 20 plus 16. I've got a negative and positive, so I'm going to subtract the small number from the large number, and I'm going to keep the sign of the large. Well, what is 20 minus 16? Oh, well, that's 4. What's the sign of my larger number? Negative, so my solution is negative 4. Now I have 3 minus negative 4, minus 2 plus 8. Oh, I've got a negative negative, so that means I've got a positive, so I have 3 plus 4 minus 2 plus 8. What's 3 plus 4? 7, so I have 7 minus 2 plus 8. 7 minus 2 is 5. 5 plus 8 is 13. Okay, now what I would like for you to do is I would like for you to hit the pause button, and I would like for you to work through these problems. Then after you've finished all 4 of the problems, go ahead and hit the play button and check your work. Okay, so you should be finished with those, so let's go ahead and check these. Negative 10 plus negative 17. You could also see this written as negative 10 minus 17. These are the exact same problems written a different way. My signs are the same. When signs are the same, I add and keep the sign of both. So for this one, my solution is going to be negative 27. Now I have negative 42 plus negative 3. Once again, I could write this as negative 42 minus 3. My signs are the same, so I'm going to add and keep the sign of both. So that gives me a negative 45. 10 minus 15. My signs are different. I have a positive and a negative. So I'm going to take the small number from the large number. What's 15 minus 10? 5. And what's the sign of my larger number? Oh, it's negative, so my solution is negative 5. The last one, 5 minus negative 3 plus 4 minus 1. Oh, two negatives make a positive, so I have 5 plus 3 plus 4 minus 1. 5 plus 3, signs are the same, add and keep the sign of both. So that's 8 plus 4 minus 1. 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 minus 1 is 11. So if any of these gave you some trouble, I want you to go back, start over, don't even look at your work, and try them again. Okay, now let's take a look at the properties of addition. We've got 4 properties that we're going to be talking about. The first one is called the commutative property, and I liken this to a commute to work. A plus B is the same thing as B plus A. So from work to school, school to work, the distance is the same. The order that you add 2 numbers doesn't matter. 1 plus 2 is the same thing as 2 plus 1. Now let's look at the associative property. I think about this as about who you associate with. So when I have A plus B in parentheses plus C is the same thing as A plus B plus C in parentheses. So I look at these parentheses, to me, kind of say who you're associating with. In this first one, A and B are associating together. In this other one, B and C are associating together. So the way you group 3 numbers to add them does not matter. Number 3 is the identity property. So any number plus 0 is going to give you that number. So any number plus 0 is itself. And identity, I think of looking in the mirror. You get back exactly what you start with. Now the last one is called the inverse property, and that simply says if I add to a number and its opposite, I'm going to get 0. So A plus negative A is going to give me 0. So let's take a look at a few examples. And I want you to identify the property. 6 plus 0 is equal to 6. I get back what I start with. It's like looking in the mirror, so that is the identity property. 4 plus negative 3, close parentheses, plus 2 is the same thing as 4 plus negative 3 plus 2. As soon as I see the parentheses, the first thing I ask myself is, can it be the associative property? Sometimes it will not be, but I always check that. And this one is the associative property. This one says negative 3 plus 2 is equal to 2 plus negative 3. All I did was I changed the order. What's that one? The commutative property. Negative 7 plus 7 is equal to 0. What's this one called? A number plus its opposite is 0. It's called the inverse property. Now the last thing that we're going to talk about today are terms of an expression. When an expression is written as a sum, the parts that are added together are called the terms. So the best way for me to show you this is to give you an example. For this one I have 7x plus 2, and I want to know what the terms are. The terms are 7x and 2. Now what are the terms of negative 9 minus 6x? Well, the terms of this one are negative 9 and negative 6x. Now be careful with this last one. What did I tell you about 2 negatives? 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 2 negatives make a positive. So I need to rewrite this one before I determine the term. So I have negative 3 plus 2x. So now what are my terms? Negative 3 and 2x. That's all there is to it.